In this video, we will tell you the details of the Titanic disaster, what important lessons the world learned from it, and how today's cruise ships have become much safer because of those changes. We'll go deep into the story, from how the ship was built to the very last moments of the sinking. We'll share real facts like what the crew did wrong, the brave things some people did, and how all that led to big rules and new ways for cruise ships today. It's a long story, but it's full of amazing details that show how one bad night made sea travel better for everyone. Let's start from the beginning and take our time to explore it all. Picture this. It's the early 1900s, and the world is changing fast. Trains and cars are new and big ships are the way to cross oceans. The White Star Line, a big shipping company in Britain, wanted to make the best ships ever. They planned 3 giant ones, the Olympic, the Titanic, and the Britannic. These were called the Olympic-class liners. The idea was to make them huge, fancy, and safe, so people would pick them over other companies like Cunard, who had fast ships like the Lusitania. The Titanic story starts in the shipyards of Harland and Wolff in Belfast, Ireland. Work began on March 31, 1909. Over 3,000 workers hammered away every day. They used massive cranes and tools to build the hull from steel plates. Each plate was about 1 inch thick, and they fixed them with over 3 million rivets. Most were iron, but some key parts had steel ones. The ship was so big that it needed 2 slitways side by side. By May 31, 1911, they launched her into the water. Thousands of people watched as she slid down the ways, cheered by crowds. But she wasn't ready yet. They spent almost a year fitting her out with engines, rooms, and decorations. Let's talk about the design. The Titanic was 882 feet and 9 inches long. That's longer than the height of the Eiffel Tower if you laid it down. She was 92 feet wide and 175 feet tall from keel to the top of her funnels. Those 4 funnels were huge, each 62 feet high, and painted black on top with buff below, the White Star colors. But fun fact, the 4th funnel was fake. It was just for looks and to let air out from the kitchens. Inside, she had 29 boilers and 6 boiler rooms, feeding steam to 2 big reciprocating engines and 1 turbine in the middle. Together, they made 46,000 horsepower, enough to push her at 23 knots top speed. Coal burners shoveled 600 tons of coal a day to keep her going. The safety features were what made people call her unsinkable. There were 16 watertight compartments, separated by 15 bulkheads thick steel walls. These could be closed with electric doors from the bridge in just 25 to 30 seconds. The designers said she could float with any 2 compartments flooded, or even the first 4 if hit in the bow. But those bulkheads only went up to E-deck, about 10 feet above the waterline. If water got higher, it could spill over like a chain of buckets, tipping. There were also double bottoms under the hull for extra protection against grounding. Pumps could handle 400 tons of water per hour, which seemed like a lot back then. But not everything was perfect. The rudder was big, but for a ship that size, it was a bit small compared to today's standards. Turning took time, and the lifeboats, well, we'll get to that soon. The ship had 3 classes, first, second, and third. First class was like a floating hotel. Passengers paid up to $4,350 for a parlor suite that's over $100,000 today. They had a gym, Turkish baths, a squash court, and even a heated swimming pool. The grand staircase was famous, with oak panels and a glass dome. Second class was nice too, like first class on smaller ships, with libraries and smoking rooms. Third class or steerage was basic but clean, with bunks and shared dining halls. Many immigrants were down there, hoping for a new start in America. Now, who was on board? The captain was Edward John Smith, 62 years old, with 40 years at sea. He was called the millionaire's captain because rich people liked sailing with him. This was his last voyage before retiring. Thomas Andrews, the designer from Harland and Wolff, was there to check how she ran. J. Bruce Ismay, the head of White Star Line, was aboard too, pushing for speed. Famous passengers included John Jacob Astor IV, the richest man on board, worth $85 million, traveling with his young wife Madeline. There was Benjamin Guggenheim, a mining tycoon. Isidore and Ida Strauss, owners of Macy's department store. And Molly Brown, who later became known as the unsinkable Molly Brown for her bravery. Crew included officers like First Officer William Murdoch, Second Officer Charles Lightler, and others. There were engineers, stewards, and over 300 in the engine rooms. Radio operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride worked for Marconi Company, handling wireless messages. Lookouts like Frederick Fleet earned £5 a month plus a bonus for no accidents. The Titanic left Southampton on April 10, 1912, at noon. As she pulled away, her wake almost sucked in a smaller ship, the New York, but tugs saved it. That was a close call right at the start. She arrived in Cherbourg, France that evening, picking up more passengers via tenders since the harbor was too shallow. Then, on April 11th, she stopped at Queenstown, now Cove, Ireland, for mail and more people, mostly Irish immigrants. By then, 2,224 were on board, 324 in first class, 284 in second, 709 in third, and 907 crew. Wait, numbers vary a bit in records, but that's close. The first few days at sea were smooth. Passengers enjoyed meals. First class had 10-course dinners with oysters, lamb, and puddings. The ship steamed west at 20 to 21 knots. Weather was good, but as they got into the Atlantic, it cooled. On April 12th, the first iceberg warning came from the French ship La Touraine. Heavy pack ice ahead. Captain Smith posted it on the bridge. April 13 brought more warnings, but life went on. Church services, walks on deck. April 14th was Sunday. The day started calm. At 9 a.m., the Coronia radioed, "Bergs, growlers, and field ice at 42N. Smith showed it to Ismay, who pocketed it. At 1:42 p.m., the Baltic warned of ice from Greek ship Athenia. Ismay showed this to passengers before giving it back. At 1:45 p.m., the America mentioned 2 big bergs. Smith changed course south a bit, but kept speed high. At 5:50 p.m., he delayed a turn to avoid ice, but still aimed for fast time. Evening came. At 7:30 p.m., the Californian warned of 3 large bergs. Phillips, busy with passenger messages to Cape Race, Newfoundland, snapped back, "Shut up, I'm busy." At 9:40 p.m., the Masaba sent, "Ice field from 42N to 4125N. But Phillips didn't pass it on. He was swamped with over 250 messages that day. At 10:55 p.m., the Californian tried again. "We are stopped and surrounded by ice." Phillips replied harshly, and the Californian's operator turned off his set for the night. The night was clear but moonless, stars bright. Sea temperature dropped to 31 degrees Fahrenheit, air to freezing. No waves bad for spotting bergs, as no white foam at the base. Lookouts Fleet and Lee took watch at 10 p.m. in the crow's nest, 50 feet up. Earlier, Second Officer Lytler had asked for binoculars, but they were locked away after a crew change in Southampton. The officer who had the key left the ship, so eyes only. At 11:39 p.m., Fleet saw a black shape, iceberg right ahead. He rang the bell 3 times, phoned the bridge. Sixth Officer James Moody answered, told Murdoch. Murdoch ordered helmsman Robert Hickens, "Hard a starboard," meaning turn left back then. He telegraphed engines, full astern. Quartermaster George Rowe on the stern saw the berg too. The ship started turning, but slowly. 37 seconds later, contact. The iceberg, estimated 50 to 100 feet high, 200 to 400 feet long, scraped the starboard bow. It buckled plates and holds 1 to 3, boiler rooms 5 and 6. Rivets popped, many were wrought iron, brittle and cold. Slits opened, 12 square feet total, but enough for disaster. Crew felt a shudder, like running over pebbles. In first class, some thought it was a wave. In third class forward, water sprayed in. Captain Smith rushed to the bridge. "What have we struck?" Murdoch explained. Smith ordered soundings. Boxhall, 4th officer, checked damage. In boiler room 6, water was 14 feet deep in 10 minutes. Postal clerks in the mailroom saw water rising fast. 5 clerks drowned saving bags. At 11:55 p.m., Smith consulted Andrews. They toured below. Andrews calculated, 6 compartments flooding, bow down 5 degrees already. Ship had 2 hours, maybe less. Smith ordered lifeboats prepared, distress calls sent. At 12:05 a.m., orders, uncover boats, muster passengers. But no general alarm. Smith feared panic. Stewards woke people gently, put on life belts, go to boat deck. Many didn't take it seriously. It was cold outside, ship seemed steady. Radio room. Phillips sent CQD, position 4146N, 5,014 feet W, slightly wrong off by 13 miles. At 12:15 a.m., first SO's new distress signal. Olympic responded, but 500 miles away. Frankfurt kept asking silly questions. Carpathia Captain Arthur Rostron heard at 12:25 a.m., turned, pushed engines to 17.5 knots from 14, arriving in 4 hours. Lifeboats, 20 total. 14 clinker-built wooden, 30 by 9 by 4 feet, 65 capacity. 2 emergency cutters, 25 by 7 by 340 each. 4 Engelhart collapsibles, canvas sides, 47 each. Davits could handle more, but White Star cut to 16 plus 4, thinking more cluttered decks. Evacuation started portside under Second Officer Lidler. Strict women and children first. Starboard, First Officer Murdoch allowed men if space. Boat 7 starboard launched 12:45 a.m., with 28, mostly first class. Boat 5 12:55 a.m., 41 people, many left half empty. Crew feared weight on davits. Personal stories. Astor helped his wife into Boat 4, asked to join. She was pregnant, denied, smoked a cigar calmly. Guggenheim and Valet dressed in best. We've dressed in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen. Strauss's refused to separate. Ida said, "We have lived together, we will die together." They sat on deck chairs. At 12:45 a.m., first rocket fired white flares every 5 to 6 minutes. Californians saw them 10 to 19 miles away. Second Officer Stone told Captain Lord, who asked if colored, company signals. No action. Lord slept. Radio off. By 1 a.m., bow lower, water in E deck forward. Band played ragtime, then hymns like Autumn to calm people. At 1:10 a.m., Boat 3 launched with 32. Third-class struggle gates locked? Some say yes to control, but inquiries said no, just confusion in mazes of corridors. Many third-class died, only 25% saved versus 60% first. At 1:15 a.m., water reached nameplate, tilt noticeable. Boat 1, 105A. Only 12, 7 crew, 5 first-class men including Cosmo Duff Gordon, who later cleared of bribery rumors. 1:20 a.m., more panic as angle increased to 10 degrees. Boat 9, 56 people. Boat 11, 70 overloaded. Collapsible C loaded with Ismay, who escaped criticism later. 1:30 a.m., radio calls desperate. We are putting women off in boats. Power failing, signals weaker. Phillips stayed till end. 1:45 a.m., last boat, collapsible D, launched with 44 water on A deck. Collapsible B floated upside down, Lidler and 30 men on it. Collapsible A, half flooded, 12 survivors. 2:05 a.m., last rocket. Smith told crew every man for himself, return to bridge. 2:10 a.m., stern rose, lights on till 2:18 a.m. Then, explosions, boilers, or air pockets. Ship broke. Expansion joint failed, keel buckled between funnels 3 and 4. Bow sank, stern settled, then rose vertical. Screams as people slid. 2:20 a.m., stern plunged, suction pulled swimmers. Water 28 degrees Fahrenheit hypothermia in 15 to 30 minutes. Survivors in boats heard cries for hours, but most boats rowed away fearing suction. Only Boat 14 returned, led by 5th Officer Lowe, saved 4, 1 died. Carpathia arrived 4 a.m., fired green rockets. Picked up first boat at 4:10 a.m., last at 8:30 a.m. 705 saved, some counts 712. Treated for cold shock. Headed to New York, arriving April 18th. Bodies recovered. Macabenet recovered 306, Minia 17, Montmagny 4, Algerine 1.121 buried at sea, 209 to Halifax. Many unidentified. Aftermath shocked world. Newspapers. Titanic sunk, no lives lost, first then truth. Inquiries. U.S. Senate, Senator Smith, heard 82 witnesses. Found. Inadequate boats, ignored warnings, no binoculars, speed too high. British Board of Trade, Lord Mersey, similar blamed ice but criticized regulations. Lessons started immediately. Here's where we see how this changed the cruise industry. First lesson, lifeboats for all. Old rules from 1894 for ships under 10,000 tons. Titanic 46,000 tons but same boat requirement. After, Solus 1914 required boats, rafts for 100% plus. Second lesson, communication must be constant. Titanic's radio not 24/7. Operators overworked on commercial messages. Solus mandated 24-hour watch auto alarms. Now GMDSS since 1999, Satellites, Inmarsat. EPIRBs auto-activate on water contact. Send GPS position. DSC radios for instant alerts. Cruise bridges have multiple redundancies VHF, MFHF, satellite phones. No more missed calls, global senders like MRCC monitor. Lesson for cruises. Integrate tech for seamless help. Modern ships like MSC World Europa have AI monitored comms. Third lesson. Ice and hazard detection. Informal warnings then. International ice patrols since 1914. Now U.S. Coast Guard with C-130 planes. Drones, Sentinel satellites tracking bergs real-time. Broadcasts via Navaria. Cruises use forward sonar, sees underwater 2 miles, thermal cameras for night, radar auto-detects. Routes via weather routing software avoid risks. Example, Norwegian Cruise Line ships reroute dynamically using Ocean Watch systems. Lesson, monitor environment proactively. Cruises now have dedicated officers for this. Fourth lesson. Ship design for survival. Low bulkheads doomed Titanic. SOLAS. Higher subdivisions, damaged stability standards. Ships must float with 3 compartments flooded. Double hulls mandatory for oil tankers. Common on cruises for protection. Materials, high tensile steel, no brittle failure. Redundancy, multiple engine rooms, backup power. Quantum-class ships, Royal Caribbean, have azipods for maneuverability, turn on dime. Stability computers simulate floods. Lesson. Build to withstand, not assume invincibility. Cruises test designs and tanks. Use FEA software. Fifth lesson. Fire safety overlooked on Titanic. Wood interiors. Now IMO rules. Non-combustible materials, smoke detectors every room, sprinklers, fire doors auto-close. Crew train in firefighting. After Morro Castle 1934 fire, 134 dead. More emphasis. Modern cruises like Harmony of the Seas have zoned systems contain fire in sections. Lesson. Prevent secondary disasters. Annual inspections ensure compliance. Sixth lesson. Training and drills. Titanic crew unfamiliar with boats some couldn't row. SOLASTTW crew certified renew every 5 years. Weekly drills. Fire, abandoned ship, man overboard, simulators for bridges, engine control. Passengers. Muster within 30 minutes of sail. Post Costa Concordia 2012. Apps on cruises guide to stations. Lesson is, practice makes perfect. Carnival requires 10 drill types yearly. Seventh lesson. Navigation and speed. Speed over caution. Now ISM code. Safety management systems. Risk assessments. ECDIS electronic charts. EYES tracks ships within 20 miles. Bridge teams. Multiple officers. No single decisions. Speed reduced in poor visibility. Foghorns. Radar watch. Post Concordia. Black box voyage data recorders mandatory. Lesson. Caution first. Cruises like Princess use VR training for navigation. Eighth lesson. Passenger management. Class divides hurt. Third class. Now equal access. Multilingual announcements, accessible designs. Crowd control training prevents panic. Lesson. Inclusivity saves lives. Disney cruises have family-focused evac plans. Ninth lesson. Environmental and weather prep. Titanic ignored cold effects on steel. Now polar codes for Arctic, Antarctic cruises. Insulated hulls, ice strengthened. Weather apps predict storms. Lesson here is: adapt to nature. Viking ocean ships have dynamic positioning to hold without anchors in bad weather. 10th lesson. Post-incident response. Slow rescue. Now SAR conventions, coordinated searches, helicopters on some ships, drones for spotting. Lesson from this is quick action. RCC centers worldwide. 11th lesson. Regulations update constantly. SOLAS revised 1960, 1974, etc. IMO overseas. After each incident, like Estonia 1994, bow door failure, rules tighten. Lesson is to learn ongoing cruise industry groups like CLEA enforce beyond laws. 12th lesson. Technology integration. Titanic had basic wireless. Now IoT sensors monitor hull stress. AI predicts failures. Satellite internet for passengers but separate safety bands. Lesson from this. Tech evolves. Safety. Wonder of the Seas uses facial recognition for musters. During sinking, wireless heroics. Phillips sent till water lapped, bride helped. Captain Smith last seen on bridge, maybe swam to collapsible, but died. Andrews gave vest to stewardess, stayed below. Molly Brown organized Boat 6, rowed back for survivors. Modern examples from history. After Titanic, Britannic got higher bulkheads. More boats sank 1916 from mine, but only 30 died. Andrea Doria 1956 collision, 1,660 saved thanks to compartments. Costa Concordia, grounded 2012, 32 dead led to better captain training, muster timing. Let's see statistics. Cruises carry 30 million yearly, incidents rare, 0.16 deaths per billion miles. The Titanic taught us failure drives progress. From rivets to radars, every detail matters. Today's cruises Oasis Symphony sail safely because of 1912. If this deep dive amazed you, subscribe to Travel and Cruise for more. Safe sailing.